Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Ask the Experts. My name is Hassani Pettiford, and it's just you and me tonight. And whoever wants to hang out, we're talking about all things concerning you. So whether you're single, maybe you're dating, you're in a committed courtship, you're engaged, you're married, whatever your relational status, maybe you're on the verge of divorce, maybe you're separated, trying to figure out how to navigate through this. You just found out that there was an affair in your relationship and you're trying to figure out, what do I do next? Whatever that question is, ask it. That's what this is all about. Maybe it's a communication issue, a financial issue, something dealing with trust and forgiveness. Whatever it is, we're here to answer those questions, and we're with you for 30 minutes strong to be able to do that. And we just want to welcome all of you to the show. I see this. Good evening. This is Nina from Detroit. I took advice given and working on balance with my husband. We also agreed to read a book together, The Audacity of Marriage. And I'm so excited. We started on it tonight and it came in the mail today. Listen, you know what? This is so random. I got a text. I can't find it, but I got a text literally a day ago, and it was a gentleman that's coming over to the Last Chance weekend in December. And there was a bit of hesitation, with the whole counseling process and who is this guy? And I don't know about this. And there was a lot of hesitancy. And I said, man, just give it a chance. And just trust the process. And they decided to start off with reading the book. And I got a text from him saying how excited he is and how the book is making such a difference in his life and in his marriage. And if he only had it 20 years ago. And that's the thing, man. If we knew what we knew, if we knew then what we know now, I think our entire relationships would be completely different. But thank God we came across something that was pivotal, that helped shift and transform our lives. It is never, ever, ever, ever too late. And so it's intentional and purposeful that you are here tonight. So get your question answered. There's a couple that I have waiting that came, so we're going to get started with that. Valencia Simmons Branch says, the depth of the damage of the affair is unbelievable. How do we share this without them feeling attacked? I think that's a powerful question, because typically the betrayed spouse doesn't want to hear it. Like, I know, like we talked about this, how many times we have to keep talking about this. I know what I did. And every time you bring it up, I feel attacked. I feel like, you know what I'm saying? You're pointing the finger that it's all me. Like, am I ever going to get out of this prison? Like, I thought I served my time. When is it what do I have to pay a penance for the rest of my life? It can be a very difficult conversation to have. It's never easy, because you're talking about the pain. And when you talk about the pain, it makes you feel all over again the pain that you felt at the time that you were doing what you did. So how can you present it in a way that doesn't make your partner feel attacked? Well, it's a two-way street. So if you're the betrayed spouse and your spouse has a need to talk, because to be honest with you, as painful as the conversation is, it's a therapeutic conversation, because I have a whole lot that's built up on the inside of me that I'm thinking about and I'm struggling with, and a certain way that I'm feeling. And if I don't get it out, our situation is going to get worse. Now, I can talk to a girlfriend. I can do that. I can talk to a stranger. I can talk to a counselor, but nothing replaces talking to you, because I need to hear from you again. I need to understand through you again. Why did this happen? And what were the circumstances? And all of those things are so necessary. And even though we've had this conversation 10 times, this 11th time, I'm looking through a different lens, asking from a different perspective, seeking different clarity and understanding on a similar topic. And the more we talk about it, it's like those pieces of a puzzle, and it all starts coming together. And when that puzzle forms and I finally got it, I'm able to release it and move forward. So there's got to be a sensitivity on your part, a level of patience on your part, in knowing that there may be a series of conversations, and for the season of our relationship, this is just where we are. We're going to be talking about it. We're going to be dealing with it. And I'm going to have to get my mind right and get my heart right. And I'm going to have to buckle down, and I'm going to have to engage to give my spouse what my spouse needs to heal. So I play a major part in that. And so I will do my part. But now, meanwhile, if you are the betrayed spouse, and you have a need to talk through these things, you have to be careful in your approach. You have to be careful to create a safe environment for your husband, because if you come with guns blazing, if you come on the attack, if you make the continual mistake of talking about your feelings when you're in your feelings, you will not get from your spouse what you need, and he will feel attacked. And when a person feels attacked, guess what they do? They defend and protect. Now it becomes a tussle. Now it becomes a back and forth tit for tat. It just does not work. So it would be good to preface the conversation, babe, there's a lot on my mind. When we get home tonight and get settled and, put the kids to sleep, can we have a conversation? Sure, babe, no problem. And you know what? This is what's on my mind. This is what I want to talk about. See how you're number one, you're prefacing that you want to have the conversation, and you're giving insight into what it is that you want to talk about, which helps to prepare the partner for the conversation. See, there are certain rules to this thing. And if you participate in the rules of engagement, the conversation can go a lot better than if you don't. So what would be good is for you and your spouse to sit down and to have a conversation about what rules of engagement you need to establish in your relationship. And what works out for your relationship will be different than what works out for mine. We have to figure out what it means for us. You got to figure out what it means for you, so that when you enter into it, you don't feel like it was all for naught. It didn't go anywhere. It just turned into another argument. He shut down. I got emotional. And that becomes a part of the crazy cycle that we have to break. So it's all about understanding how to have this conversation. That's one of the things we're going to be dealing with this weekend at the Last Chance Weekend, because I'm going to tell you right now, every single couple that's coming struggles with communication. I already know it because we all do. And if we could master that one element, it changes the game for everything else. All right, I'm reading these questions in real time, guys. How do you get my husband to understand intimacy is more than just sex? Yeah. The intimacy sex conversation is a powerful one, because many men specifically look at sex as a form of intimacy, because it is. But when we think intimacy and sex, for us, those words are synonymous. It's the same thing, but they're not the same thing. And when we're talking about intimacy, once again, you've heard it before. If you've ever gone to church, you've heard this. Intimacy means what? Into me see. Not just to get inside of me. I know you want to get up inside this, but I need you to see up inside this. So there is not just physical intimacy, but there is intellectual intimacy. When I allow you to get inside my mind, I'm sharing my thoughts. We're connecting in that realm. There's emotional intimacy when I allow you to get into my heart, because I'm sharing my feelings and emotions. There's spiritual intimacy where we connect in worship and praise and praying together and meditating and whatever we do, and we're connecting in that particular way. When we have intimacy in all of those areas, that is oneness. So when the Bible says a man shall leave his father and mother, and the two shall become one, oneness is intimacy in all four areas: emotional, spiritual, intellectual, and physical. Where are you missing it? Where is there a gap? Where is there a void? Where does there need to be a bridge that connects the big disconnect that exists between you? When you begin to unpack that for your husband, let him watch this video. Let him hear that explanation. Because once he hears that explanation, now he has some insight. Because here's the reality. When dealing with sex, generally speaking, let's just be general. Men generally are more physical. Women are more emotional. And the way to a woman's body is through her heart, right? So that means even though I can look at you and instantly have a desire to engage in sex with you, I know it takes more for you. I've got to penetrate your heart before you allow me to penetrate your body. And if he understood the pathway to what it is that he's seeking, and if he knew how to go about doing it, boom, you've reached the sweet spot. This is why so many women in particular engage in duty sex, old shoe sex, or even have sexless marriages, because the husband is not aware on the pathway to get to what it is that he truly desires. So hopefully that answered the question in terms of that. Francisco, I need help. I've seen I've seen with my own eyes my spouse liking shirtless and other male photos on Instagram, and I am the recent offender and struggle with jealousy and fear of of retaliation for what I did. Yeah. Yeah, man, I get it. What happens is when you are unfaithful on your spouse, not only does it create an insecurity in your spouse, it can create an insecurity in you. And I know we've talked about this before, the fear of retaliation. And even though your spouse said they're not going to do what you did, you have a fear that they might. And so the fear is owned by you. The fear is within. And so fear is not real. Right? There's a difference between fear and danger. Danger is something you're currently actually experiencing that's factual. Fear is something that's in your mind. You're anticipating something bad happening in the future. And so there's things that she can do to feed that fear, or there's things that she can do to starve that fear, but the majority of the work begins with you. And so I can't wait to see you this weekend, my friend. I can't wait to see you. I feel like I know you. We've been communicating through this show. We've been texting each other back and forth. I know your story well. And we're going to take the time to deal with that fear, because that fear is a very real thing, because retaliation is real. And so we've seen this a lot of times when both partners cheat. One obviously is the one who cheated first, and then along down the line, days, weeks, months, years later, the other one can do it. And oftentimes one of the contributing factors, though it wasn't a conscious decision, one of the contributing factors to justify one's affair is, well, it happened to me. And I never took the time to really heal and get delivered and go through a process of restoration for that previous affair. And oftentimes in these situations, there was no counseling, there was no last chance of weekend, there was no private marriage intensive. And so you have the benefit of experiencing this before any such thing should occur, right? So the foundation that you need to have a long-lasting, mutually beneficial, sustainable relationship, you will this weekend. So I'm looking forward to that, and for both of you getting the healing and transformation you need. All right. Oh, thank you, Ralph. Ralph said have him read the 5 love languages. Oh, I think you're referring to the first question about the difference between sex and intimacy. It's a phenomenal book, guys. The 5 love languages: words of affirmation, quality time, the giving of gifts, acts of service, and physical touch. Non-sexual, but physical touch. And once you begin to understand each other's love language and begin to be bilingual, speaking in each other's love languages, that will help solve the problem. So excellent recommendation. I appreciate you. Hi, listening from Barbados. Good question, Good question, The betrayed, talking about being attacked, can relate. Okay, great. Thanks, guys. I'm reading this in real time, so, sometimes it makes sense to me upon first read. Sometimes it doesn't. JG says, will there always be pain and sadness after infidelity? Even when I see change and have support from my husband, it feels like on the outside we're doing great. I feel guilty bringing it up. JG, I've asked you this question several times and I've yet to get an answer from you. Are you doing any individual work for yourself? Are you working with anyone in particular? To answer your question, that pain and that sadness is absolutely going to be there after any affair. It's a pain and sadness that does not have to be permanent. It can be temporary. It's temporary depending upon what you do, right? So, and I've heard this before. He's doing certain things. He stopped certain actions. He's beginning to implement other things on the outside, things are looking well, but internally on the inside, you're still in pain and sadness. And so the reality is there is a healing and recovery process for both the offender, and the offended. And if he showed up, dotted every I, crossed every T, did everything right and exact, according to what it is that you requested, according to the counselor, according to every book you read, but you weren't willing to do your part, it doesn't matter what he does. It's going to be hard for you to accept it because you're not doing your work. There's heavy lifting that you have to do. So sadness and depression and all of those things are a natural reaction and long-term impact that someone can experience, but it doesn't have to be a permanent emotional state that you exist in. You can do something about it. It's not what happens to you. It's how you respond to it. I think about people who have been abused, who've been raped. What causes certain people to implode and they have a woe is me life, and they're shaped and formed by that experience. And now they become, I don't know, they just sink into the depths of despair. And then others turn that thing on its head and don't let it define them, but they overcome it and they become these amazing, wonderful people that make impact on the world and have great relationships. Well, what's the difference between the two people? You know, it's how they respond to adversity. And you have to be someone who's highly adaptable. You have to be someone who embraces the fact that, you know what, this has happened. What am I going to do about it? You have to be someone who doesn't take on a victim mentality. See, many of us could wind up being victims of a situation, but then there's a mentality that keeps us in that victim mode. And so if you embrace a victim's mentality, this pain will always be here. But I want to encourage you, my sister, you can overcome it. You can get through it. There's so many people who have done it. And what you need to do is you need to surround yourself by people who have been where you are. See, it goes back to rule number one. What's rule number one? Who do you listen to? You listen to people who have what you want and have been where you are. You listen to people who have what you want. Well, what do you want? I want healing. I want freedom. I want deliverance. I want a healthy relationship. Well, listen to people who have it. Stop listening to people, and I'm not suggesting you're doing this, but I'm just making a point. Stop listening to people who are in the same situation as you, who are still struggling like you are, who are still miserable and going through relational stress like you are. You can't listen to them because all they're going to do is reinforce the same struggle that you're going through. You need to listen to people who represent your answer and who have your solution. That's what you do. You become soaked and saturated in that. You get rid of fear thinking and become saturated in faith thinking, which shifts you out of your situation to a better place. So hopefully that helps. Savannah, excuse me. My husband cheating 6 weeks ago. How do you not think about the betrayal and pain? I cannot have sex with him. We have become cuddle buddies. I am so hurt, haven't told family and friends yet. You can't stop thinking about the affair. If I say, listen, don't think about a pink elephant. Well, what are you going to do? You're going to think about a pink elephant, right? You can't stop thinking about it. That's not necessarily the pathway, because every time you say, oh, I'm going to stop thinking about it, guess what you're doing? You're thinking about it. What you have to do is start thinking about something else. This is what we call the catch and release. Think about baseball, right? Our Atlanta Braves just won the World Series. And so what happens is a ball is hit, it's in the air, someone catches it and then releases it. So you've got to catch the thought and release it. And when you release it, you've got to thought shift and focus on something else. So in essence, what you're saying is, I know the thought is going to come again. I know it's going to happen. What am I going to do? Am I going to allow it to consume my mind? Am I going to meditate on it? Am I going to vacillate back and forth in it? Am I going to allow it to be ruminating in my mind? Or am I going to catch it, deal with it, release it, and then refocus my mind on something else? That is one of several mental techniques that you can engage in. You understand that? So you have the power and the ability to control your thinking. You can't necessarily control what comes in because things just come in out of nowhere. That's where triggers come from and emotional reactions come from. But there's an obsessiveness that the betrayed partner ultimately engages in because they're so preoccupied with what has happened. I mean, think about 9/11. When we experienced 9/11, I don't care where you are around the world, we were all impacted by it. And for the next few months to years, people were, glued to the television, listening to the news, looking at reports, just consumed with it, right? How could you not be? And so we had to make a decision. This is overwhelmed. We just have to turn the TV off. We got to turn the radio off. I can't do it anymore. I don't know. I'm just in a different mental and emotional state because my entire life has been governed and ruled by what has happened to me. And then the shift comes when you decide to do what? Turn the channel or turn it off. And now you're making a conscious decision to think in another way. So as long as you're thinking about what has happened, you're going to remain cuddle buddies. It's going to be hard. You're going to be trapped in that pain. And if you don't have the strength to do it, please reach out to us. Let us help you. We have amazing practitioners that can guide you through a process to get you to a better place. That's what this is about. That is why we're here. Hope that answers your question. All right, let's go to the next one. Okay. Does forgiveness mean reconciliation? No, it doesn't. I can forgive you and not reconcile with you. We are required to forgive. We're not necessarily required to reconcile. Now, if you're talking about reconciliation with a spouse that has betrayed you, we know that ideally God would, first of all, there's permission in scripture that if someone's unfaithful, yes, biblically you can leave. Facts. But it is God's intention and will that you restore the relationship. There's scriptures from Genesis to Revelations where he wants the best for you. And there's many principles that have been given, many stories that have been unpacked that have spoken to redemption, that have spoken to reconciliation, that have spoken to the pathway of forgiveness and how to begin to restore trust and how to begin to heal and how to begin to reconnect. I mean, God created marriage. It was his first institution. It's his baby. He loves it. He cares for it. And he wants the best for us in it. And in this life, we're going to be hurt. In this life, we're going to have setbacks and situations and things that occur to us. But he's given us a pathway to have personal healing and relational transformation. So no, forgiveness does not mean reconciliation, but in order to reconcile, you must forgive. Do you see that? So forgiveness is the prerequisite to reconciliation. It is God's best for us. This is what he ultimately desires for us, but we choose. The Bible says, choose ye this day who you will serve. Likewise, God has given us choice. We're not robots. We're not created to be angels. We are human beings, and he's given us will. He's given us a mind. But he says, listen, you can choose life or you can choose death. The choice is yours. But he gives you a recommendation. He says, choose life that you and your seed may live. I'm giving you the choice, but choose life. So when we choose for us what God wants for us, it ultimately works out for us in the end. Does that make sense? All right, I got another question. Preface the conversation. Try different ways. Still, he feels attacked, condemned, not sure specifically what you're talking about. So, all right. How can I get my husband to understand the importance of having a relationship? I was attracted to initially because of the great conversation we had. Those went out the window, and it's so frustrating. Okay, so how can I get my husband to understand the importance of having a relationship? So did you hear that? How do I get my husband, the person I'm married to understand the importance of having a relationship within our marriage? So in essence, what she's saying is we're married, but we have no relationship. And we've been talking about this for years, that there's a major difference between your marriage and your relationship. It's different. Relationship, companionship, communication, quality time, sexual fulfillment, connectivity, emotional needs being met. That is what's important. So many men, they value the marriage, but do they value the relationship? That's the key. And so that's what counseling is for. That's what reading a book together is for. That's what listening to these daily shows are for. You know, at the end of the day, if you think one way and he thinks another way, think about this. If I'm a Democrat and you're a Republican, or if I'm a Republican and you're a Democrat, it doesn't matter what we talk about. I'm going to process information through the filter of the party that I identify with. So it doesn't matter what you tell me. As a Democrat, I believe thus and so. As a Democrat, I believe thus and so. That's what we do. That's what we do. Is that not what we do? So likewise, when it comes to opinions that we have, I already have my mind set on this, and your mind is set on that. So no matter what kind of argument you make, no matter what facts and statistics you give me, I filter your information through my mind based upon how it's already set to think and believe. And so this is why we encourage that couples drink from the same well together. They read together. They go to worship together. They go to counseling together. They tap into a resource together so that they learn and grow together. When Danielle and I first got in a relationship, we made a decision because she, we were both Christians, but she came from a different denomination than I did, and there were differences in terms of what we thought and and so we said, you know what? Why don't we learn together what we believe? Why don't we pick up a relationship book and read it together to figure out what we need to do? And because we did that, we grew together. When you do your own individual work and journey and your spouse does his own individual work and journey, if at all, what happens is you begin to grow apart. There's no glue binding you together. There's no commonality. There's no shared foundation that you both submit to. And so you can come up with an amazing argument as to why it's important to tap into developing a relationship within your marriage. But until you begin to learn and process and experience things together, it becomes a very difficult conversation. So that would be my advice. Go to a third party, go to another source that you both can embrace together that can help shift and change how you both think about that particular situation. All right. Good evening. How can my husband give advice to our boys about doing what they're supposed to do when they feel he's not doing what he's supposed to do? They smirk at him. I get it. He doesn't practice what he preaches, right? And so as parents, old school way of thinking is do what I say, not as I do. That don't work because children, they model what has been mirrored they mirror, what has been modeled for them. And how you going to tell me not to smoke while you smoke coming out, you puffing on a cigarette right now? How you going to tell me not to curse when you done said 3 curse words in the same sentence? Like, what? You as a parent have to be a model. Children learn through observation and participation. They don't care what you say. They only care and remember what it is that you do. So it's going to be hard for them to receive. It's just like going to church and hearing the pastor talk, and you know good and well your pastor is trifling and wretched. He's a dirty deacon. He's an evil elder. He's a preacher. He's a pimping preacher. And then he's going to tell you about how to live holy. You're like, Joker, what? I can't even hear you right now. You're like an alien to me right now. I don't hear you. I'm not talking about your pastor. I was just reading a book, Pimping from the Pulpit to the Pews. I wrote that like 15 years ago. I'm talking about those pastors. But my point is, whatever moral authority you try to operate in, do you live out what you speak out of your mouth? If you do, then the message resonates. If you don't, it does not resonate. Okay. How do you get your wife to open up and talk about what's going on her mind or going on in her mind and in her heart if she doesn't like talking? Yeah, Darren, that's a problem. There's a problem. So it's so interesting. I was just doing a session with a couple tonight, and the woman in particular, she has a tendency to suppress. She has a tendency to not open up and share. And there's fear at the root of it, fear of being rejected, fear of not being heard, fear of, not wanting to hurt their partner's feelings. There's all types of fear and insecurities that go on inside of the person. And so I think it's important to kind of get to the root of that. One of the things that I'm doing with that couple is I'm having them take a personality assessment. We call it the Enneagram personality assessment. And I already know what number she is. I already know what she is. I just want her to realize what she is. And so in it, once we kind of unpack what it is, then we take them on a journey and a pathway to become the best versions of themselves. See, what happens is when we don't engage in healthy practices, it's because we're not operating at a level of health. When we become healthier, we begin to do healthier things. And so she has the ability to articulate. She has the ability to communicate and share her feelings. She's just not operating at a level of health that allows for that to easily happen. So this is why we say the key to your marital restoration is your personal transformation. She's stuck somewhere. There's an internal break that's keeping her from opening up. And so once we identify what those breaks are, and then we release the breaks, boom, she goes flying. And you're like, oh my God, where did all this come from? It was all in her. It's not like she doesn't have thoughts. It's not like she doesn't have feelings. It's not like she doesn't have anything to say. Oh, she has a lot to say. but those internal resistors are getting in the way. And so through what we do in our counseling process, we help to release those internal resistors and help you to begin to engage in things that you typically wouldn't do. Listen, guys, doing more of the same is just going to get you more of the same. So if you want something different, you got to do the opposite of what you've always done. And that's how you do it. Whew, this is a long one. Let's see. My fiance and I both have children from previous relationships. For over a year, we were taking our children to church as one big family, then out to lunch. Then his ex-wife got involved and decided that she didn't want their twins, the 15-year-olds, to go out to our church anymore. And that she would be taking them somewhere else. We could still do lunch, just not church. Unless we went where she was going. My fiance dropped me and my kids and started going to church with the ex-wife. Man, is that right? Wow, guys. Is this your current fiance or your ex-fiance? Yeah, I guess it's your current fiance. No, that's not right. This is a sensitive situation because now you are being exposed to kids that they have. And there's all of these sensitivities. I don't want my children around that woman. I don't trust that woman. I don't know that woman. I don't like that woman. I don't want that woman being influencing my kids. And and I don't know the dynamics of your relationship. I don't know who, your partner is. I don't know the issues or the personality of the ex. I just know, just not knowing any of those things, it's time for a serious conversation. Because if you are transitioning into a relationship that's going to lead to marriage, guess what? Your children are part of the package. They just are. Now, I don't know what the particulars are that's causing her to do that. This is why it's kind of difficult sometimes to give you answers when we don't know enough information. But overall, I think it's important. And now you're dealing with different churches, right? So now we may be dealing with different denominations, different faith traditions. There's a lot to this. This requires a lot more unpacking that the show doesn't allow for. But in a general sense, what I would say is it's important for you as the person who's kind of stuck in the middle between the fiance and the ex, for you to have a conversation with that ex and to establish what the culture of your life and of your household is going to be and come to a place of agreement. Otherwise, the kids become pawns that are tossed to and fro. It creates pain and confusion and dissension within your nucleus family that you had when you were married, and then it causes stress on the fiance. And there's so many details to this that I need to know. What relationship your kids have with the fiance. There's just a lot to this. So I would encourage you to reach out to us so that we can go deeper into this so that it will make sense. My husband also feels that our kids lack respect towards us because we haven't demonstrated it towards each other, and that he hasn't been a good role model. I feel that disrespect started with his selfishness. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you're training your children how to treat your spouse. When they look at you, when you curse your spouse out, they're going to curse their parent out. When you dismiss your spouse, they will dismiss their parent. It happens all the time because, that's how he should be treated. Oh, that's how she should be talked to. Okay, I guess that's what's normal. I guess that's what's okay. And then when you come back all frustrated and mad, don't talk to your mother, your father like that. Well, wait a minute. I'm sorry. My bad. You were demonstrating something for me that I thought was the norm. So I just followed suit. So this is why we have to be very careful. And we always say you have to protect your children from your marriage. When you're having an argument, please do your best not to expose your children to it. But if for whatever reason they are exposed to it and they see the conflict, and then 3 days later, you two are happy and smiling, and that's confusing. That's why we say, if they see the argument, let them see the apology. Let them see how to make up, because you're training them how to be in their adult lives. We have so many couples who say, you know what? I never saw my parents say, I'm sorry. I never saw my parent apologize. So I can't do it because I don't know how, because I never saw it. Or I never saw my parents fight. Like, I can't deal with the fact that my spouse, we're not arguing, fussing, and fighting, but the fact that they disagree with me. I never saw my parents disagree. So now when my spouse disagrees, I think that the sky is falling and the world is over. You see? So there's certain things we have to realize, that we have given our children a front row seat to our lives, and we're always on stage, right? Listen, when this mic turns off and these cameras turn off and these lights go out and I walk over into the living room or the dining room or the bedroom, guess what? I'm still on, because I have children who are living with me who observe everything. They listen to what we say, they watch what we do, they pick up on everything, and trust and believe they are learning. They are learning. And so we have to be very mindful of that, to be our best selves. When we are our best selves, that is where true parenting comes from. Not in what we say and what we instruct, but how we live our own lives out. Boom. Selah, think about that. Man, there's a lot of questions. I'm going to go a little bit further. See you all this weekend. I am the betrayed partner, and my wife says she hopes she is not wasting her time. I'm 100% in. Oh, thank you for sharing and identifying yourself. I think that I want you to come back on after this weekend, and I want you and your wife to share what that experience is like. You know, a lot of times people do come feeling like it's a waste of time. If I could just talk about them, if you tune in regularly, we have a powerful couple here that we absolutely love. And they came to the retreat, and one said, I'm just coming because that's what he wants. So I figured, I'm gonna just come because I'm just honoring his request. But I already made up my mind that once we get back home, I'm done. I'm out. I'm gone. I already know where I want to live. I'm thinking about the lease. I'm thinking about what life's going to be like. So she pretty much came closed. Everything transformed in that weekend. Everything transformed in that weekend. And they're doing significantly better today. So once again, some people come, three types of couples. Couple number one, they both want it. Couple number two, one wants it, one's unsure. Couple number three, one wants it and the other one doesn't. Yet when they come, they're able to experience something that is really transformational. And that's what we're hoping and praying for you. What if your husband leaves not once, but twice? Yeah. That's once again an open-ended question. I don't know. I need more particulars. It's worthy of a conversation. It's worthy of getting help. Is he gone? Has he come back? What are the relational dynamics? There's a lot there that we can unpack. Guys, listen, I appreciate these amazing questions, but we're 37 minutes in and I've got to stop this because I got to get to another client. So I hope that you got something out of today. I thought it was a pretty good conversation that we had. Hopefully this is helping you. Listen, I want you to sit down with your spouse, have the conversation, talk through these things, figure out how you can get on the same page to get the help that you need. Reach out to us at couplesacademy.org. You can set up a discovery call and we could talk through your situation to figure out how we can be a help to you. If you listen and if you're paying attention, so many people who have been a part of the Last Chance Week and a private marriage intensive weekly sessions, they've done something that has made a significant difference in their lives. Why should you be the one who hasn't gotten what they have gotten? You can do it. Just reach out to us. We love you, and we will see you in the morning for another great show and tomorrow night to continue these conversations. So if you've asked a question that I haven't gotten to yet, trust and believe we'll address those first before we get to the live questions. See you guys. Love you.